This is episode 728 of the Rio Grande Foundation's Tipping Point, New Mexico. I'm Paul Gessing, president of the Rio Grande Foundation, New Mexico's free market think tank. You can find out more about the foundation at riograndefoundation.org. I am very pleased to be joined this week by Carter Swanson. He has been an intern with the Rio Grande Foundation, although listed on the website as a policy analyst. But he is an intern at the Rio Grande Foundation, and we're just going to talk about his work and kind of an exit interview because he's kind of at the end of his time with the Rio Grande Foundation. Unless plans reunite, we'd be happy to have him back. But welcome to you, Carter.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I forget, it's been, I don't know, a year or so since you've been at the foundation.
Yeah, I think I maybe started in like September or so of last year.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess, just to start with, what is your background? You're going to school at UNM. What are
Mhm.
you studying there?
I'm studying economics and mechanical engineering at the moment.
Two very different fields of study, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But you grew up here in Albuquerque.
Yeah, for the most part. I was born actually more in the Washington, D.C. area, but we've lived here for probably last 10, 11 years.
Okay,
hmm
and that for a guy like you, that's a majority of your life.
Yeah, pretty much here.
Yeah. So I'll ask the thing I always ask younger folks. Uh, how did you kind of come upon the ideas of liberty? What made you interested in, especially kind of free market economics? Because so many young people these days, and for a lot of human history, have been much more on the political left and the more the socialistic side. What made you a more free market believer?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the biggest contributors. I've grown up in a fairly like conservative household, and so my parents are pretty conservative. And just broadly speaking, a lot of my childhood is filled with ideas of let's we'd rather be allowed to do what we want to do, kind of things. My mom's always worried, oh, if like they're asking for our information for something, gotta do we really want to give that up? That sort of thing has always kind of been part of my life. And so I think free market and more conservative thinking has always been, yeah, sort of an undertone to my kind of thinking. And so as starting to go to UNM and majoring in economics, I think broadly speaking, economics tends to lean more conservative, and we'd rather just let the market do what it's going to do. And so the more that I've kind of learned about economics and learned about New Mexico and the various problems it has as being a part of the Rio Grande Foundation, I think all of that has just really more and more reaffirmed that, yeah, I am very much pro liberty, pro free market, and all of that.
And while you are at UNM, you also went to public high school.
hmm
Where'd you go to
I
school?
went to Cottonwood Classical. It's like
Okay,
a
a
charter.
charter
Yeah.
school. Yeah. So you're dealing with economics. You went to a charter school, which charter schools are all over the place, just like public schools. Uh, did you run up against people who disagreed with you? Did you have any kind of fights or arguments, or was it tough to kind of hang on to those more conservative principles? UNM is, of course, very liberal,
Mhm.
although I hope the engineering program is not too off the rails, but certainly economic policy, you get some
Yeah.
kind of left wing thinking over there. Have you had to take a stand or deal with anything really tricky in your educational efforts?
I mean, I don't know that there's ever been a really dramatic, like, gotta draw my line in the sand, but certainly going to, yeah, like a public high school, even though it was a charter, it was super, super liberal. I was always kind of in the minority, and especially during COVID with all that going on, there was a lot of different things. I feel like in most of the classes that I was in, other than like maybe math or physics, there was always kind of an undertone of like, well, obviously everybody thinks more on the left side of things, and I either had to just kind of like hold my tongue or be always be okay being a little bit of the naysayer, the devil's advocate in my classes. And so I think it definitely is challenging to hold on to that. And if you don't have a set like I tend to believe in conservative liberal, I mean conservative like liberty sort of ideas. If you don't come in with that, I think it could be super easy to really be influenced and just kind of by default lean to the left and more traditionally like liberal ideas. And so I think for sure it's difficult. But in UNM, I wouldn't say I've had any too strong kind of confrontations. I think, yeah, both engineering and I would say economics as a whole are fairly conservative, fairly more free market thinking. And so I think that's kind of been my experience.
Yeah, and getting into your work at the Rio Grande Foundation, you've done a lot of different work for us, including writing opinion articles and different things about current events. Do you Are you somebody who keeps up on current events, or was it kind of tricky to learn some of these issues? And I realize that not everything that we research and work on at the Rio Grande Foundation is uh, well known or top of mind. Part of what I think we try to do is to take issues that are more important than people are aware of and try to educate the public. But uh, do you keep on top of things, and if so, how? I mean, young people tend to focus on the internet and probably not reading a newspaper here. Here's my newspaper to date myself, but anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've always been a little bit aware of politics and kind of current events and what's going on. I tend to find that stuff interesting, obviously why I ended up here. But yeah, like a lot of people my age, I think it's before the Rio Grande especially, it's not really it wasn't on my radar in the same way that I think it is a lot of people's. Yeah, so that's been part of my favorite part about working at Rio Grande, just kind of getting to really learn about New Mexico specific current events. Because I'll occasionally read like the Albuquerque Journal or like the Wall Street Journal if I'm looking for more different kinds of news. I think that's where I get most of the news that I'm actually like, okay, this is probably legit. I think there's a lot of random stuff out there on the internet that doesn't seem very trustworthy, but so yeah, I've really enjoyed getting the kind of the deep dive into New Mexico specific policies and issues. Definitely more so than I was aware of before.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's something that we try to encourage people at all levels to be more knowledgeable and informed about state and local policy issues, because of course um, that we think those impact people much more profoundly than a lot of the national stuff, which does impact them, but it's not as easy to impact the thinking of politicians when you're dealing with a population of whatever 325 million people. At least New Mexico is sort of manageable, although it is a frustrating place with regard to the fact that people continue to kind of vote the same way time after time. But yeah, we're working on it. We're trying. So you've also done some editing of this particular show, the Tipping Point, New Mexico interviews.
Mm-hmm.
You've sat down and watched and listened, so you may have more podcasts under your belt in terms of listening than almost anybody else in New Mexico, aside from Wally and myself. But what did you do there? I'm sure you had an original kind of vision, maybe idea, and then you've probably evolved in terms of how you edit these things. But the idea, of course, is to kind of come up with some of the top points and top things that we talk about. But just describe that process.
Yeah. So I would always kind of just come in and get to watch your guys' amazing podcasts. Really a treat.
Thank you.
And so yeah, I just kind of end up watching the whole thing through, kind of jotting down notes and honestly, ultimately looking for a good one-liner that can go on a YouTube short or something like that. Probably as the longer I kept doing it, I realized the importance of short and sweet is important. Obviously, in this day and age, people are looking for something they can get real quick. So yeah, just ended up watching the whole podcast. Hopefully, kind of trying to get at both what the key of the podcast was and kind of relate it. Probably maybe more unintentionally than intentionally, but relate it to the kind of the issues that I've been thinking about and working on. I think always, my own perspective would kind of color just thinking about, oh, this kind of relates to these other issues we've been working on, and so just trying to find, yeah, a good line or a good thing that kind of sums up the ideas that you guys were discussing and kind of the relevant topics in New Mexico, something that yeah, just really speaks to some of the real struggles that people see, and trying to make it something that's relatable too, that can be taken in a moment and be like, yeah, we as New Mexicans kind of really see that and feel that. So that's kind of what I would try to look for.
Yeah. Now you are moving, well, not permanently, but you are leaving us at the Rio Grande Foundation to head to Australia.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, yeah.
That's exciting.
I leave just here in the next week, so I got to really get my act together.
Yeah. So, what leads you to want to do? Is it a semester abroad, or are you
Mhm.
doing more than what, like 4 months would be Australia?
Yeah, I think it's about 5 months, but yeah, semester abroad. Yeah.
Okay, so talk about that. I guess you're going to school over there, and you know, where are you going to be staying? What are you going to be doing? Is it? I know you never. Well, have you been to Australia before?
I've not. No.
Okay, so tell us about what you expect going to Australia.
Yeah. To be honest, on some level, I'm a little bit like I don't even know what to expect. We will see when we get there, but I I'm really super excited. I'm going to Western Sydney University. So I'm going to be able to take some classes, mainly economics classes, actually. So I'm super excited to see. I'm taking a class just called like the Australian macroeconomy, and along with some more specific ones, but just kind of to get a look at, after taking such a deep dive kind of into New Mexico's economy and seeing what problems and some successes we have. And so I'm gonna hopefully get to take a look at, yeah, I don't know, what a whole different kind of environment looks like in that department. I've never really spent much time outside of the U.S. or even really outside of New Mexico, broadly speaking. So getting the chance to, yeah, see how this whole other place functions, and colored by my experience, yeah, working for the Rio Grande Foundation and looking for that, is an exciting part of that. I'm really looking forward to, but
Yeah,
also just seeing Sydney. I mean, who doesn't want to go to Australia? Hopefully, see the Opera House and do all the things there.
will
Um,
you
uh,
be able to travel around? I mean, Australia is a really unique nation in the sense that an overwhelming majority of the population is there on the eastern coast, but
yeah.
you've got that kind of big desert in the middle, the outback, and then you got Perth and a couple of other towns on the western coast. Do you want to travel around and see other places in Australia, or are you going to mostly stick to the big city?
I think probably initially I would probably stick to Sydney, see if I can really get my fill there. But I really hope to explore it totally. I mean, I don't know that I'll get a chance to go back to Australia anytime soon. It's kind of a long, expensive flight. So, yeah, I hope to. I think they have a lot of really cool, like, they do some train. You can take a train kind of between the big cities. And so I think to get to see like some of the more rural parts and kind of do that, yeah, I'm super excited. I hope to be able to see as much as I can while I'm there. But I don't know that I have like a specific itinerary at the moment.
No, I hear you. And there are undoubtedly some similarities there. I don't know a great deal about Australia, so they do speak English, a somewhat charming, funny sounding form of English, but I'm sure they probably feel the same way about us.
Yeah.
I know that they have. I saw the movie Rabbit Proof Fence once, where they introduced some rabbits into the outback for hunting, and they caused that rabbit population to really explode, and so that's an issue in Australia. Of course,
Okay.
China and the rise of China and their demand for natural resources coming out of Australia is another thing. But maybe we'll have you on the podcast after you come back, and you can do a debrief on all the things going on in Australia. But hopefully, they don't have a global pandemic while you're there, because Australia was quite restrictive when it
Mm,
came to COVID and just dealing with people's individual freedom. It really kind of disappeared in
totally.
Australia during the COVID pandemic. So hopefully that doesn't nothing happens like that for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. Well, knock on wood. I mean, that would not be a good time. I didn't realize they were so restrictive. We know a thing or two about that here, I suppose. Too.
Yes, we do. What was since we're on that topic? A lot of young people in New Mexico. I mean, we were very locked down. Um, I assume you were in high school. You were going to
Hmm.
uh, that school at the time. That being a charter school, maybe they did a better job. But what was that like for you? Did you have to just do all your classes online? And what was that situation like?
Yeah. So I actually started my high school kind of career, I guess, at Explorer Academy, which is kind of right there next to Cottonwood.
Okay.
So I started that freshman year, and so end of freshman year, everything shut down. Yeah, spring break happened, and we were like, "Oh, we're gonna get a few extra spring break days, yippee!" And then just little did we know, but yeah, so everything kind of shut down, and I finished up that year all online. Took the rest of my classes just with assignments, and probably honestly, the rest of that year was pretty lackluster as people were adjusting to the whole online schooling thing, and which I didn't mind. I was like, hey, if you don't have anything for me to do, that's fine with me. But so that was certainly hit or miss. And then I started sophomore year online at Cottonwood. They were still fully online. The only way I met any people was I started running cross country, which they had us do in masks, which seems
Oh,
crazy.
oh, that is. I played a little basketball in masks, and that was stupid and obviously unscientific. But running cross country even is a dumber idea, especially since you're
I
outside,
know,
and
yeah.
the idea is to put as much distance between yourself and the other people as possible. So I can only imagine that must have been miserable.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if there's ever a sport that like it's probably fine to go without masks, it feels like cross country would be the one. But yeah, we ended up. I think we just ended up with these kind of foam masks that didn't really do anything, but they were masks, so they counted. But yeah, so that was kind of the real roller coaster of my experience. Honestly, like in high school, maybe it was kind of nice. I didn't really the school requirements were low, and I was still able to connect with some friends and different things through church and whatnot. So yeah, I don't know. It was a mixed bag for sure, but I do remember kind of the moment when masks were no longer required at Cottonwood by the time we came back, and there was kind of this like, oh wait, they sent out a whole email. Everybody was in class, and everybody was like, wait, should we take our masks off? And there was this heavy like, well, no, obviously you shouldn't do that. That'd be unsafe or whatever. And so there's definitely some tension with the lifting of COVID restrictions too.
Yeah, because you know we looked at Cottonwood Classical for my kids as well, and it's a pretty liberal school. I mean, it's
Hmm. Hmm.
considered a classical academy, and that doesn't mean that you don't have young people like yourself there, but it's known as a good school. It's a good charter school, but it's definitely got a pretty left wing bent
Hmm.
to it. So um, my daughter's charter school was even more left wing than that. It was a performing arts school, and they were wearing masks after APS was done wearing masks. So charters can be all over the place, and I'm a proponent of charter schools. But yeah, they're only as good as the kind of people running them, and the board really drives a lot of the things that the charter schools do. Obviously, the governor's impact was very large as well. But
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I did really enjoy Cottonwood. I had a great experience there. It had a lot of good things. I felt really well prepared. But yeah, it definitely has a left bent, like you were saying.
yeah, so let's talk more about your kind of non-political career aspirations. Engineering, that can run the gamut, but I assume your plan in life at some point is to uh, draft and create designs for roads and bridges and public works projects. Is that what we're talking about here, or do you have an idea what you really want to do
I mean,
as an
yeah,
engineer?
yeah, that's kind of obviously the initial thought. I mechanical engineering specifically tends to do more like yeah, designing and manufacturing stuff for yeah, like machines and cars and that kind of world. But to be honest, like the more I'm getting into the engineering world, I'm thinking I don't know. I'm having some doubts. I think, which is just getting into my own, neuroses and thoughts about where I'm headed in life. But yeah, I've always been a good maths science student. I like learning about how things work, and so I was kind of like, oh, engineering seems like a good fit for me. But I think what it lacks is some of the the thinking about the way like some of the bigger issues which I've enjoyed in economics, and like how the world functions and why our state struggles and those kind of things I find really compelling and interesting. And so engineering, I think you can really get into the weeds, and a lot of the engineering classes I've taken at UNM have felt a little tedious at times. And so I think I'm still trying to decide where that balance lies, or if I want to continue with engineering.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to give you some career advice. Money and stability, probably on the engineering side, because there's always a need for new products and new buildings and new developments. That's just the reality of our society. Uh, Fun and interesting, and hopefully making a difference in the world, more so on the economics and kind of political and policy side of things. So that's my personal take. Now, you meant Australia. Are you doing both fields? Are you doing economics and engineering over there, or are you picking one side? I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, I'm taking mostly econ classes. I think I'm taking 3 econ classes and then 1 engineering class to kind of just keep up with moving along on the requirements on that. But it's a lot easier to find economic classes that will transfer because their requirements are a little less strict, maybe.
Yeah, I can imagine. They do things upside down and sideways because they drive on the other side of the road over
I
there in
mean,
Australia.
yeah.
So you're dealing with the real mess in terms of. I know they don't live upside down. I've been to Argentina, not Australia though. But anyway, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. I'm sure you'll learn a lot about Australia and its political situation and economic situation. But that sounds really fun. But I guess the big question is going to Australia. I mean, I maybe you'll find a job and get married and move to the land down under, but more than likely you'll at least come back to New Mexico, finish up at UNM. Uh, do you see yourself staying in New Mexico long term? I know that's a tough one uh, until you start really focusing in on specific jobs and job offers and recruiting and that kind of thing. But there's a lot of places with a lot more diversified economies and job markets, stuff that you've learned here at the Rio Grande Foundation. Like, you know, understanding that is a question for the future. How do you see that playing out in your own life?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, like most people, a lot of people my age are just like, man, I cannot wait to get out of New Mexico, which is not at all how I feel. I really love New Mexico. I think it has so much to offer. Um, that's why I loved working at the Rio Grande Foundation too. It's only made me feel more and more like, man, I love the state. It has a lot going for it, but man, it has a lot of issues too. But to answer your question, I think I would like to see some other parts of the world and maybe try living somewhere else for a while. Probably not Australia long term, but even just living in some other parts of the country for a time. But honestly, I really do love New Mexico. This is yeah, and I have a lot of fondness. I pretty much have grown up here, and so I think long term, I intend to come back to New Mexico. I really do like it here, and I think the people who are just itching to get out are really missing out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, it's their lifelong goal and desire to come and live in New Mexico, and there is a lot of beauty here, a lot of cultural uniqueness here, a lot of positives. Obviously, sunsets, green chilies, mountains. There's plenty to like, but obviously, when you're a young person, you're trying to get started on a career, there do tend to be more opportunities in other places than New Mexico. And I've got some charts and other information talking about how we are losing our young people here away. They're moving to other places because those opportunities you can find better jobs and better you know opportunities, more diverse roles in other parts of the country, and that's just a true fact and kind
Hmm.
of a difficult one that we have to deal with here when we're talking about New Mexico and its policies and issues. Um, so yeah, any other aspects of Australia? Do you know anything about Australia? Are you going to be there, with anybody that you know, or are you just going to show up and say, here I am, let's try this?
I mean, well, one of the big things I know is they don't have green chili, which is really going to be a problem. I feel like I'm ruined for food anywhere else after living here. I'm just always kind of sad when I'm like, wait, where's the green chili? But
That'll be an expensive shipment if you if they send it over from from here to Australia. That'll be a tough one.
yeah, yeah. Probably not worth it, but maybe. But yeah, I know a bit about Australia, but I think for the most part, I'm kind of gonna go and figure it out. I'm see where the wind takes me, I suppose. But I'm not going with anybody else from UNM, so I think I have some like family loosely related who lives there. But
Oh,
really not a lot of connections. So I'm kind of just going and hoping it works out.
and yeah, have you figured out the hour differential for your like phone calls back home? Like
Yeah.
how many? Australia's way in. Are they in front of us or behind us? I always get that confused.
Yeah, yeah, they're 16 hours ahead. So,
Ahead. Okay.
uh-huh. They actually have a orientation I have to go to on July 4th, but luckily cuz I don't want to do anything on July 4th, but luckily it's 10 o'clock at night here on July 3rd, so that's a good time.
Oh, okay. So physically, you're not going
No,
there.
no,
You're
yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's like a virtual orientation, yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Those dang Australians, they're just like disregarding our national
I
holiday
know.
here. Yeah, they didn't fight a war. They just kind of eventually became free from England and whatnot. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, one of the things that we definitely had you work on was the education system and getting young people. I forget what it was called, but the legislation that was discussed passed the House, I think, but didn't pass the Senate. You had some pretty, I thought, strong thoughts on that. The one I'm specifically referring to the legislation. It was the savings accounts for
Mm.
uh, kids and young people to that they would eventually get. And it's not so much a savings account, but it's the money that they were going to set aside and the state investment council was going to invest. And I actually kind of had to draw you back in and say, this there's a lot of worse ideas out there, but uh, give us your, what you thought about that and why you're kind of lukewarm to a no go on that personally. What did you think about that one?
Yeah, yeah, I maybe came out a little strong on that, but basically, I don't know. The premise was, yeah, that they're going to set aside some money and invest it, and when they turn 18, I think it was, they would
Yep.
get a check for, I don't know, something, maybe $20,000 ballpark.
Right.
And so, not that that's bad. Who doesn't want $20,000, and giving money back to the government? I mean, from the government to back to New Mexicans seems good, but I don't know. To me, it just felt like kind of a half measure, and really just a statement that the government is saying you really can't handle your own money in some way. Like, we're going to take it from you, tax it, and then we'll give it back to your kids later because we can do better with it than you. I don't know. To me, and perhaps this is a bit harsh, but it kind of just encapsulated this idea of like the fundamental difference of like who knows best, right? And this kind of idea that we need the government to shepherd us along in all the different ways. And so I think that was why it felt frustrating to me. It's kind of saying we don't really have faith in New Mexicans in the future that they can build on their own, and so we're gonna set this aside and kind of hope to keep the status quo later, and rather than giving New Mexicans the opportunity to use that money and all the other money that as taxes keep going up and that is being taken out of New Mexicans pockets to like really try to build a brighter future that would actually lift New Mexico up rather than kind of hold the status quo.
Yeah, and that was it. Legislatively wound up being called the Children's Future Act, but colloquially, it was called baby bonds, and that's how a lot of people referred to it. It was HB 7, and it passed the House 38-26, but uh, I don't know that it got a hearing or really ever moved through the Senate. And you can read Carter's article there at airsofenchantment.com from the Santa Fe New Mexican on June 7th. So you can also look at the New Mexicans website. And um, yeah, I mean, as a young person, you would not be factored in here because it's only if it passed, it would only be applicable to kids born after that date. That would be one of the tricky things. Imagine
Maybe
having,
that's like really why I didn't like it. I was like,
yeah,
oh.
yeah, it's not going to benefit you or me because we're not having any more kids at the guessing household. But yeah, if somebody's born, say the law takes effect on July 1st, as so many laws do, which is actually today. So a lot of laws taking effect as we discuss this. But and you're having a kid on June 30th, you just missed out on $20,000 for that kid because they were born a few hours before it. That doesn't strike me as fair, and certainly it's not fair for maybe not yourself, but kids who were born, 2 or 3 years before the bill passes, and then they don't get anything. It's definitely elements of concern with that particular proposal, but I thought you did a good job of explaining and highlighting those, and you got to write about a lot of other issues as well. And I'm not always, I don't have them off the top of my head. Maybe you remember them because you wrote them, but
I should remember them. I think I wrote about I like the NAEP test results.
oh yeah,
I did one about that. Wrote one about the permanent funds. Just keep growing.
right.
And then I think I did maybe another one that went on the website about kind of the 50 can. They did that data about schools and parent involvement, engagement in schools, and kind of different interesting statistics in that regard. And I think I wrote something about that.
And you've been helping distribute and track our mayoral
Mm.
and city council uh, survey responses, and you're always good for graphics and stuff. That's one of the nice things about having young people around the office. They're always good at those technological things that I may not be quite as adept at. But yeah, well, it's been great having you at the Rio Grande Foundation and contributing to our efforts. And so I really appreciate that. And, for those of you listening, especially you older folks, the kids are all right. At least some of the kids. I'm not saying every single one of them, but Carter's a good guy, and definitely was an asset to the Rio Grande Foundation, and had a pretty good understanding of the ideas as you walked in the door. But I hope you've learned a fair amount, not just about kind of free market principles, but also some of the things happening in New Mexico and things that we can do better as a state to hopefully keep you here, and so that you flourish in your not just career but your personal life into the future. But
I mean, yeah, for sure. I've learned a lot and now I feel like I can really have an educated conversation with somebody about why New Mexico needs to do better about these different things. But yeah, I've loved working for the Rio Grande Foundation, and getting the chance to write and kind of put my opinion out there has been really a great learning experience. And yeah, just all the things. I'm very grateful for the opportunity you guys gave me. So yeah.
yeah, and I assume you won't be taking home a paycheck in Australia to deal with the politics. You won't have a part-time job. That would be, it'd be interesting just to see how that whole process would work, because Australia is kind of one of those countries that has a relatively sparse population, and like I said, they've been in a they've been selling a lot of their uh, raw resources, natural resources, especially to China and Southeast Asia, which have been growing rapidly. But yeah, I'd be interested in talking to you further about your experience in Australia, the land down under, and uh, all the excitement that brings. So enjoy your experience down there, and you've always got a home at the Rio Grande Foundation, and of course here in Albuquerque. So uh, thanks for all your work.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'll have to give you the lowdown on Australia when I get back.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Find all episodes at tippingpointsnm.com or at the Rio Grande Foundation's YouTube channel. Subscribe to the show at Apple, Stitcher, or tell Google Home to play Tipping Point New Mexico. Thanks to Path 3 Marketing for producing this show.